Good morning. Welcome to the Workforce and Economic Development Subcommittee. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. We will begin our meetings with call to the order and call to the public. I don't have any items for call to the public. Matt?
We do not have any items for call to the public.
Okay. I have minutes of meetings. The last time we met was January 22nd, 2020. Can somebody make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. Thank you. We have consent items 2 through 3. Does anybody can make a motion?
I would, well, actually, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and make a motion?
Okay. Or do you want to pull one?
I'll just vote no.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent item.
You mean 2 and 3?
2 and 3, sorry about that, yeah.
Okay. Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 No.
No, a nay. There were 3, what were they? 3 yeas and 1 nay. So majority carries here. Information only, item number 4, Key Phoenix Economic Indicators Quarterly Report. Does anybody want to hear this?
No.
No? Okay. Discussion and possible action. Deb, I didn't hear you, Deb.
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay,
I'm fine.
okay. Discussion and possible action, item number 5. Do we have a fiscal year 2020 through 2021 Bioscience Healthcare Strategic Initiative? I believe we have a report. There's Chris. Okay, here we go.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. We are here today to talk to you about the 4th year of our strategic initiative relating to biosciences and healthcare. With me today is Claudia Whitehead. She is our program manager over our biosciences and healthcare program. Just quickly to go through what we've been up to the last year with the funding you so generously gave us last year for our initiative. We have continued to work on research opportunities on the Phoenix Biomedical Campus with our hospitals and our startup companies. We've brought additional development into the community. Of course, the Wexford Science and Technology Building is under construction, and we have a number of hospitals and other medical-related facilities under construction. As you know, we have just over 4 million square feet under construction with just over $3 billion in capital investment that are creating 7,000 jobs. A continued strong focus on precision medicine with our hospitals and TGen, Translational Genomics Institute, as well as University of Arizona, NAU, our community colleges, and Arizona State University. Healthcare delivery with our hospitals and continued education, particularly a strong partnership with our community colleges. The pictures that you see in front of you are from the Biosciences International Trade Show in 2019. You'll see conversations that we were having with Wexford and University of Arizona, and of course the city sponsorship of Startup Stadium. We are working closely with our universities, our community college, and the city of Phoenix on our marketing and branding of our Phoenix Biomedical Campus and other areas of Phoenix. Councilwoman Pastor, as you know, you and I are working very closely with the community colleges on our Phoenix's hot branding in our allied health and our nursing programs. So in 2020, Council, of course, in 2019, agreed to sponsor us for another year of activities in our Biosciences Strategic Initiative. This year, with the COVID pandemic, for the first time in history, the Bio International Trade Show was held in a virtual platform, but it was indeed held, and it was actually a very good program for us. We had more than 7,200 participants who were exposed to the city of Phoenix and just over 4,000 companies. As you'll see on the sponsorship, on all of their marketing information, on their website, on all of the information that went out to all of the attendees, the city of Phoenix was the only city in the entire world that was recognized as a sponsor, and that, of course, was for Council's vision to be the sponsor of Startup Stadium. The delegation that attended was a very illustrious delegation. As we told Council in 2019, it consisted predominantly of technology, biosciences companies that exist here in Phoenix. Of course, Wexford Science and Technology was with us. They are under construction with 220,000 square feet of commercialized biosciences space here in downtown Phoenix on the biomedical campus. Of course, for the fourth year in a row, the U of A College of Medicine, Arizona State University, and then a plethora of very exciting early stage biosciences companies here in Phoenix. And in fact, in 2019, Huma Biologics received $1 million in grant funding from their attendance in 2019. And of course, the Flynn Foundation, the convener of the Biosciences Roadmap, was with us this year as well in our virtual format. If we look at the impressions that we received by our investment this past year, we had 225,000 media, our web and email impressions that were received by our attendants. Again this year, thanks to Claudia's hard work, the delegation had more than 200 virtual meetings, and Claudia did share with me that she thought that some of the meetings, even in a virtual format, were better meetings than when they'd taken place on the trade show floor because there weren't distractions between the companies and investors and potential partners. We had 62 delegation opportunities in collaboration, meeting with investors, in leads that they received for future business and partnerships. And I'm very happy to tell you that Claudia came back with 4 very hot prospects for our biosciences space here in Phoenix. We also created a leadership and collaboration sponsorship in speaking. It was an immersive medicine of the future, and a really expert, extensive panel was put together to talk about all that is going on in the future of medicine. Of course, leading for Phoenix was Dr. Frederick Zenhausen, who's located here in downtown Phoenix. Dr. Zenhausen, as we lovingly call him Dr. Z, is ranked as the top 30 scientists in the entire world. And of course, Honor Health here from Phoenix attended with us. Microsoft Research and Duke was on our expert panel that Claudia put together. As we work to tell the Phoenix Biosciences story, which when you think back to Phoenix's initial investment in biosciences in the early 2000s, everyone told us we couldn't do it. Boston was too far advanced. San Francisco was too far advanced. Atlanta, San Diego, other thought leaders in biosciences had been doing it for decades and decades and were well entrenched, and they just told us we were too late to the party. But the city of Phoenix, even going back to the 2000s, didn't know how to take no for an answer. And the investments that the city, the county, Flynn Foundation, our private sector, and the state made in launching into bioscience has paid off in dividends. So Wexford held a podcast called The Commons. It features researchers, innovators, entrepreneurs who are looking at improving the community condition right here in our own backyard. And during Bio International, they did focus on the Phoenix Biomedical Campus. Tom Osha did host it and interviewed quite a number of people here in the city and in our biosciences community. And it was an incredibly well-received podcast, and we've received great feedback and attention. This is also, of course, also posted on our Phoenix biomedical website. Again, at Council's direction, we sponsored Startup Stadium again, and Phoenix companies did attend with us as well again this year. And you'll see Phoenix, again, as the only city sponsoring Startup Stadium. BMC'd, Aquis Innovations, and iCalQ attended Startup Stadium and conducted their pitch. Investments are still coming in from the pitches that were held at the end of June, so we'll be excited to tell you where we end up there. Well, this slide looks a little busy. What we wanted to show you was the 2-page ad that we placed in the Arizona Business Magazine in the September and October issue that's out, that's getting ready to be issued and is out right now. It's a 56-page biosciences supplement that talks about all that's going on in the region in biosciences. And Claudia and Nate and I are using it across the globe to truly market all that's happening here in Phoenix. So as we look at the article that was just run at the beginning of September 13th to be precise, the Arizona Republic did an incredible spread on all of the activity that's going on in biosciences and healthcare. And the headline read that Phoenix invests big in biosciences and healthcare. Again, 4.5 million square feet, $3 billion in capital investment, and 7,000 new jobs whose average salary is over $70,000 underway right now. And I really would like to thank all of the team that works diligently on that. Claudia Whitehead leads the efforts for us here in the city of Phoenix. Nate Wright has spent the last few years working diligently on the biosciences campus. And we have a new member, Heather, who has just joined us, who is taking over some activities here on the Phoenix Biomedical Campus. So we are here. Last year, Council graciously authorized $95,000 for our biosciences and healthcare strategy, which does not affect the general fund. It comes from the genomics fund, which is the rent that our biosciences companies pay on the Phoenix Biomedical Campus. So we would like authorization to fund attending Bio 2001 again this year to the sum of $90,000. It will be the participation and the purchase of the booth for a pavilion for the city of Phoenix. We believe this year more than a dozen companies will want to attend with us. We've had such success over the last 3 years, this being our 4th and upcoming year. It provides connections for our Phoenix Biosciences companies, our advertising and marketing opportunities. Now, it really doesn't end up costing us the full $90,000, and you'll see in our proposal, a number of our sponsors do help us fund this activity. We ask for the $90,000 of appropriation, but also the authorization to accept funding in potential share cost of the booth. Of course, a member of AZ Bio again this year at $15,000. They've been instrumental in our industry connections, in helping us with companies, helping us make partnership connections and networking to be able to connect individuals and students in the biosciences arena into companies that are looking for a workforce and others in the area. So this year, where last year council authorized $95,000, this year we're asking for $10,000 more, or $105,000, so that we can expand the number of companies that we take with us to Bio. This year it is in Boston, and we're hopeful that the meeting will take place in a in-person format, but if not, we would of course be intending in a virtual format again. So we would request the subcommittee approval to implement the Biosciences and Healthcare Strategic Initiative and provide us funding from the Genomics Fund in an amount not to exceed $105,000. And with that, Claudia and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
I have a motion if you like a motion.
Yes, I would.
All right, I like to approve staff's recommendation.
Do I have a second?
I will second. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those not in favor, please say no. All right, motion passes. We are at item 6. And I do have a speaker. I'll first get the presentation first, and then I'll go to one that has requested to speak. I believe this is Chris again, Chris Mackey.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning again, Chairwoman and members of the subcommittee. We are here today to talk to you about a proposal for a residential development here in downtown Phoenix at 6th Street and Garfield. With me here today is Zandon Keating, Deputy Director over our Community Development Program, and Zandon will walk you through the proposal for a Hubbard development. Zandon?
Thank you, Chris. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, today we have a really exciting project to show you today, which is a high-rise development at 6th Street and Garfield. So let me highlight a little bit about the location first. This, of course, is at the southeast corner of 6th Street and Garfield. It's about an 18,000 square foot lot, which is approximately 3 of the original lots that were there when this area was originally developed with single-family homes. The city considers it to be a vacant lot for tax purposes. It's a vacant lot. However, Grow House, which I think all of you are familiar with, is currently operating on the site. The developer will work with the organizers of Grow House to find a new location, but that's something that will come a little bit down the road as this project continues to progress. So let me tell you a little bit about this developer. It is Hubbard Street Group. They are really urban infill specialists. They've developed across about 7 states, and they really focus on those sites and those opportunities that are very urban in nature within dense city areas. They're originally from Chicago is where they come from, and so that's where their experience really started. And they've done a variety of really mixed-use, transit-oriented developments. They've developed about 1,000 units through this process. And they include retail developments in generally all of their sites as well to really provide that great mixed-use product for the communities that they're developing in. So to tell you a little bit about the project that we have today, the proposal that's before us, it is a 26-story multifamily development with some mixed-use components as well. It's about 309 units is what the developer's expecting to yield out of the building, and they have committed to 10% of those units being restricted for workforce housing. There would also be some parking associated with the development, 201 parking spaces and a structured garage. And then there is that retail component as well, almost 7,000 square feet of retail and restaurant space on the ground floor. And then one of the really exciting things for us about this project is it includes a 2,800 square foot co-working space, and that space would be available to the community. This is a property that is directly across the street from where ASU and Wexford are developing the northern portions of the biomedical campus, and there really are no co-working spaces in this area. So we're really excited to see this new option available for the community in this area. And what the request is today is for a government property lease excise tax, and staff supports an 8-year lease with abatement for that. We can talk a little bit also about the benefits of the project. Of course, anytime that we're looking at providing one of these agreements for a developer, we want to see that the project has a number of benefits that come along with it. Of course, there is that $87 million investment in downtown. There is that new co-working development option as well. There is the infill of a vacant lot. This is a property that's been vacant for many, many years. There is that new workforce housing that comes along with it. There's a number of jobs associated, both permanent and construction jobs associated with the project. There's also quite a bit of increased tax revenue that is associated with the project. It's about $1 million, a little bit over in construction sales tax that's estimated would come to the city. And then on the commercial rental retail tax as well, it's about $145,000 per year at stabilization that's projected to come to the city. So pretty significant increases. And then I should also note that yesterday staff received a phone call from the developer's attorney who indicated that the developer has also agreed to make a voluntary contribution to the city's housing department of $100,000 that would assist with the city's affordable housing goals. And with that, we would request the subcommittee's recommendation to enter into a development agreement with Hubbard Street Group for the development of this 26-story multifamily mixed-use project. And we're available for any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Okay. Hey, let me jump on. I got you, Bob, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, Chris, what we're doing here is they're asking for a GIPLET, and on top of that, they're going to allow 10% of workforce development housing, and also on top of that, $100,000 that goes into some affordable housing fund, right? Is that what I heard?
Madam Chair, Councilman Nowakowski, you are correct. That is what they are offering for the terms of the GIPLET.
You know, with that, I if anybody else doesn't have any questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I have one question.
Alrighty.
How did the 100,000 come about, or how was that reached with the developer? And who had that dialogue?
Madam Chair, I would turn to, we just received the call yesterday afternoon, so I believe the attorney for the applicant is on the phone that could answer that question. I just received the call offering that 100,000. So, Madam Chair, if you'd like to call on their attorney, he might be able to shed some light on that.
Okay, I do have, if anybody has any other questions first, before I go to the speaker. No? Okay. I have Nicholas Wood on the line for item number 6.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, good morning. Nick Wood, Snell and Wilmer, 1 Arizona Center, and I represent the Hubbard Group. Actually, this was not even my idea. My clients are very magnanimous. They're a major developer out of Chicago originally. This is their first project in downtown Phoenix, and they give quite a bit of money to affordable housing and other such uses up in Chicago. So they brought this to me and said, you know, do you think the city, you know, would appreciate this kind of a contribution? I said, absolutely. I said, you know, it's a common conversation on a daily basis at City Hall with the mayor, the council members, staff, and everybody trying to do what we can to help that affordability factor. That that as rents continue to climb, simply because the demand continues to grow, there are people being left behind, and no one wants that to happen. So they said, look, we would love to be able to make that $100,000 contribution. And of course, when I discussed it with Chris, she mentioned that the council just recently gave Sydney Stotler direction and approval for an affordable housing fund. Again, I'm unfamiliar with it, but that was the information I received. So I called Chris yesterday and shared with you as well this wonderful proposal to not only do the 10% workforce housing during the 8 years of the term, but also to make a one-time contribution of $100,000, which would be made basically at the time that we pull our building permit.
Okay. So I guess I need to ask staff, or go ahead, Councilman Nowakowski.
So I know that you've been working on this affordable housing for downtown Phoenix and also workforce housing. I know Deborah has been working on it also, and myself. And I think this is a new trend that we need to start happening in downtown Phoenix, is that we have a lot of apartments, a lot of condos, a lot of housing going up, but it's not workforce housing. It's not affordable housing. And I believe that if we start with this new trend where we get at least 10% plus a donation into a fund where we as the city of Phoenix can actually turn around and either have a nonprofit or ourselves build workforce housing or affordable housing. I think it's a good trend to have. So just want to thank you, Ms. Chair, for your leadership, and also Deb for advocating for these types of programs.
Does anybody else have anything to say?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
you really were the force to get us to a 10%, and I think you've done wonderful things to help us get there. The additional funding is just icing on the top of the cake, and so I'm appreciative of it. And again, thanks for all you've done, Councilwoman Pastor.
Really appreciate the comments. What I have, I guess I'm a detailed process person, and so I'm not sure we can vote on this, but I would like to know exactly. I don't know if it's staff that needs to I asked this question to, or if it's the city lawyers on how. I'm not sure where this 100,000 is going. I know it's going for affordability, but where? Does the city have a account, or that's the clarity I need. Or we can vote on it, and then with the thought of we will come back with all those details or creation of. So that's my question to staff.
Madam Chair, it's Chris Mackey. Maybe what I could offer and see if this works for the chairwoman and the members of the subcommittee. This was new to us just last evening, so if the subcommittee chooses to move it forward, we'll immediately work with city attorney today, get you details either yet today or tomorrow on that fund opportunity. If anything needs to be accommodated for prior to a formal council vote, we could always continue it from the formal council meeting until those are established. But to your point, getting you all of those formal details before you make that formal council vote, staff could do that, and then we could continue it from the formal meeting if we don't have everything structured before it would appear at the formal meeting.
Perfect. So anybody have a motion?
So, Madam Chair, for the motion, I'd like just to also give some credit to Evans Churchill organization that has really advocated for more affordable housing and workforce housing. And they're one of the individuals that are groups that came up with this idea of that other cities have affordable housing fund that they actually use. So they were asking questions about why can't we as the city of Phoenix have one too? So, working along with them and myself, we've been advocating for these types of programs. And Cindy basically says that she doesn't see any problems with having this type of fund under her department to look for affordable housing, especially in the downtown area. So I think it's there won't be any problems. Nick, are you still on the phone?
Yes, I'm here, Councilman.
Maybe if you can clear that up a little bit too about the Churchill.
Sure. So in our discussions, Councilman Nowakowski, by the way, Madam Chair, Councilman Nowakowski asked us to, with these GPLIT projects, asked us to start looking at some additional ways to generate either some funds or something else for affordable housing and or workforce housing. And, we've had that discussion before. I know, Madam Chair, you and I have had that discussion. In fact, Vice Mayor Guardado mentioned it on the GPLIT that was approved last Wednesday from the dais. She mentioned that she would like to see more with the upcoming GPLIT. So I think the combination of Councilman Nowakowski's leadership, Madam Chair, your leadership, certainly the mayor, and the vice mayor, and and others, of course, even here, I spoke with Councilman Garcia yesterday, and we discussed this as well, and he's been looking for the same thing. So I think this is a culmination of a lot of great ideas and leadership, and I think I have a client who is very thrilled to do this after discussions with Evans Churchill and our discussions with everybody else. So again, there's a lot of kudos to go around, but for this one, yeah, we're very grateful for that.
So with that, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff recommendation for this item.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Councilman Nowakowski, I like the title. I'm still Councilwoman Pastor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, there you went. The ayes have it, and one no. Appreciate all the leadership and the work, and we will figure this out. Thank you. We are now currently at item number 7. And Councilman Nowakowski, I figured you would like to, I'm sure you know about this, but want to hear about it. It's contracts with Arizona Fresh Holdings for the redevelopment of Del Rio former landfill at 1150 East Elwood Street.
No, absolutely. I would love to hear about it. I know about the project. Guadalupe Miranda, a great resident of Phoenix, and not only a resident here in Phoenix, but owns hundreds of acres of beans in Mexico. And we call it El Rey de los Frijoles. We came up with this great concept, and it's something amazing. It's something that's really needed for South Phoenix, and especially on the banks of the river. You know, ever since Congressman Pastor has allocated all that funding for Rio Salado, this is one of those projects that I think he would be very proud of, and basically giving back to the community, educating children, and getting people involved in a gigantic farmers market like atmosphere. So just really want to thank all those that were involved, and especially Guadalupe. And I'll just pass it on to Chris to give us a report on it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you for your time again this morning to talk about our project Arizona Fresh. With me today is Acting Parks Director Tracy Crockett and Assistant Director of Public Works Joe Giudice. As you all well know, the city has owned a landfill known as Del Rio for quite some time. It is bounded by 7th Street on the west, 16th Street on the east, Elwood on the south, and the river on the north. It's approximately 156 acres, and about 103 of those acres were a former municipal solid waste landfill. It did operate from 1971 to 1981, and it's been closed for the last 40 years. Originally, there was a 20-acre park in the middle of the municipal landfill that was not a landfill, running north and south in the middle of the land. And I'll show you in just a moment where that was located. The current zonings on the site are light industrial and heavy industrial, but they all have the Rio Salado interim overlay district over the top of them. In front of you, you see kind of the jagged shape that was the original city park. That was not a landfill. It was a park that operated from sometime in the 1980s and closed in 2012. It's not been a park since 2012. There was significant previous community input on this particular site, but I would be remiss if I didn't state that it all started with Congressman Pastor and his vision to bring funding into the Rio Salado area and to be able to rechannel the river and bringing in street funding and development funding into the area, and that's where all of this started. And that was the 2003 Rio Salado Beyond the Banks Area Plan, which was really meant to protect the investment in the habitat restoration, looking at long-term community benefit, but also increasing the value of the properties along the river. As you know, even when you drive today, the area along the river in Phoenix has some challenging things that happen along it. It is the landfills, it is storage facilities, it is, of course, where our our mining operations take place. But this discussion and plan looked at how, as those things came into redevelopment, they should be focused. In 2012, the Del Rio Area Brownfields Plan was created, which talked about redevelopment of the brownfields area within the Del Rio. It looked at future development and it shared values and design concepts. And of course, in 2012, the Del Rio Park Conceptual Master Plan was created by the community. It was led by the Parks and Recreation Board, but unfortunately, the city was unable to fund that park. It was an approximately $200 million park, and the city was unable to fund it. So as I came here to the city in 2014 and 15, Public Works, our Environmental Department, our Parks Department, our Planning Department, and Economic Development met with the conveners and creators of that Del Rio Conceptual Master Plan and talked to them about ways we could help them get the benefits that they looked for. Great conversations and a great group to work with. This is not the first time we've had this property out for an RFP or redevelopment. In 1995, the city did issue an RFP, which was terminated in 2004. In 2005, the city issued an RFP. 2 proposals were received, but both were disqualified for not meeting the requirements. In January of 2018, under my purview, the RFP was again issued. 2 proposals were received. We disqualified both of them for failing to meet the RFP requirements, and I can speak directly as to why we disqualified these 2 applicants. The community made it very clear that they were not interested in seeing a traditional industrial development, an industrial park, happen on this particular site. And I promised the community we would not bring anything forward to them that met that requirement. Both of these RFPs were industrial developments with a nod to a parks development, and so we disqualified them both. We came forward to City Council in late 2019 and shared with you that staff's opinion as the reason that these RFPs kept failing was our transparency policy that's in existence during an RFP process makes it very challenging on our more difficult sites to develop. We told council that staff's professional recommendation was to take it out for a public lease opportunity instead, so that public works staff and park staff and economic development and planning and environmental, streets, everyone could talk to anyone who was interested in proposing. Council did make that authorization, and in January of this year, we did release the lease opportunity. Our release opportunity requested a mixed-use development project showing a preferred, a shared use path along the northern border was required, trails and recreational elements for public use were required, but it needed to adhere with environmental regulations, of course, being a former landfill. We did receive 5 offers. One was a golf concept similar to Topgolf. One was a biosciences office and research park utilizing the whole site. One was a soccer field and academy concept utilizing a small portion of the site. And one was solar testing and research fields. 3 of these offers included suggestions for development of the entire site. The panel did select Arizona Fresh, really based on its ability to provide the most areas that the community was interested in receiving from our meetings and also from the community activity that happened in 2012. What you see in front of you is the Arizona Fresh phasing plan. It's currently planned in 4 phases. The salmon color is phase 1, and as you look at that salmon color in the middle of the property, it's no surprise that that is really following the border of the former park. As I mentioned, that former park was not built on a landfill. It does go to bedrock. So development, the initial development will be more simple, taking place on that park site. And then the salmon color on the hard corner of Elwood and the eastern boundary of the property is a park, which does put the park in the closest proximity to the community possible. In phases 2 through 4, they plan for an agri-food research center, an incubator, more test fields, and a startup, a conference center, and some office park for strategic partners potentially in the future. I'm going to walk through in extreme detail now the project in its first phase. So what you see in front of you are the renderings for the Arizona Fresh wholesale produce market. It is a combination of a 210,000 square foot cross-dock distribution center broken down into 66 individual bays of just over 3,000 square feet each. And what that means is if I'm an international wholesale producer, I can bring my goods in to sell there. If I'm a local farmer in South Phoenix or in West Phoenix, I can rent 3,000 square feet and come in and do my wholesale distribution of my produce. So it could be something like a large grocery store that comes in to buy their produce for a week, but it could also be one of our local restaurants who's looking for tomatoes for this week's salads and comes in and picks out their tomatoes. What I think we're so excited about is the area for the fresh produce farmer's market that's immediately adjacent, and that's the rendering that you really see on that top corner. Inside is the first of the benefits to the community with this development, and that is access to fresh produce. The interior concept that you see in front of you is the retail farmers market. So this is an attachment to the wholesale farmers market, but this is where members of the community, staff, anyone could come in and they could purchase their lettuce, their baked goods, maybe it's a milk product, things that will be sold inside of the retail farmers market. It is a year-round operation, and it will put dozens of producers in one particular location. So you think about a farmer's market that you go to on Wednesday nights or Saturday mornings, and you get what you need. But this will be a location where you can go in, all day, every day to pick up what it is that you need, whether it's, great pies from Amadio Farms in South Phoenix, or it's fresh produce that's been brought in, or other types of bakery goods or jams, jellies, salsas. And this is open not just to one producer, but our local vendors and our national vendors will be able to sell in here. So you see the shelves in front of you. If I raise blueberries here in Phoenix, I might just rent one bucket, or maybe I sell multiple garden items, I might rent a whole shelf. Phase 1 will also call for education and research opportunities, research fields in looking at that food from that farm to table innovation that so needs to take place in these days of growing crops. So we have several of our universities who have already committed to an on-site university research collaboration focusing on sustainability, on data analytics, nutrition, food safety, real test fields that are for food innovation production. Think of this landfill now as a living lab for a farm-to-market supply chain, something that is taking a brownfield and moving it to a health field in line with the city's food innovation plan. As part of Phase 1, the developer will be required, working under the Parks and Recreation Department's guidance, to create 20 acres of parkland. While you see some suggested items underneath you in athletic fields, playground and open spaces for family gatherings, or hiking trails, it's important to note that this has not gone through a full parks public process yet. This was simply comments that staff received during its public outreach, alerting the community as to this project. This will require and follow Parks' traditional park development process, where they do extensive community meetings and community input and come back to the Parks and Recreation Board with the development and what this project will look like. Also in Phase 1, the developer will be building an events and entertainment center that includes a public amphitheater and open space for concerts, festivals, and special events. When we were out in the community, that was the area that we heard the most that the community was interested in, was a space for their own festivals and for outdoor entertainment. And when you look at future opportunities in restaurant and retail, you think in Phase 2 when that incubator comes along, and now you've got companies that are working in a commercial kitchen, or they're working to incubate their startup restaurant or their startup company, and then being able to have space right on the Del Rio to spin out into their own restaurant, bringing restaurants and shopping opportunities, really was the original vision as it looked at ways that Congressman Pastor for decades and decades looked at redeveloping the Rio Salado. When we look at community benefits, Arizona Fresh did have a third-party economic impact study done from Elliott Pollock, and it does provide at ultimate build-out that 1,500 full-time and part-time jobs will be located on this campus. And it includes an economic output on an annual basis of $848 million. When we look at the impacts on primary impacts to all taxing jurisdictions, the annual impact from the operations to all taxing jurisdictions is estimated at $3.5 million, with $2.4 million directly from the construction of all 4 phases. As council knows, this is the Del Rio landfill, and it's been under the purview of our Public Works Department for decades, and it will remain under the purview of our Parks Department. As council approved at your May meeting to allow Arizona Fresh a license to get on the Del Rio landfill to do their core samplings under the guidance of our Public Works Department, that activity is still underway. 10 core samples have been taken. And what has come back is what Public Works knew from its reports. This landfill was filled with materials of household garbage, wood, plastics, and paper, and other materials. It did not find any chemicals, construction materials, or tire waste, which can be much more complicated in redevelopment. So our Public Works Department, who keeps extensive records of our landfills, records were validated by these 10 core samples. It's important to note that Arizona Fresh is continuing their geotechnical work on the landfill so they can really understand how that work will take place. The use of the former landfill will be minimized in phase 1. As I showed you on a previous slide, it's not surprising that the phase 1 takes place predominantly on the initial park site while they work through the items and understanding of the balance of the landfill. The park itself, of course, will now be on a former landfill site and will be built as part of phase 1. The team that is the Arizona Fresh team is a well-respected group of individuals. Guadalupe Miranda is with Grupo Cintar. It is a Phoenix-based company who does significant work in Mexico. Councilman Nowakowski did mention he is known as the king of beans for his commodity work. He also brings 12 companies together, including a foundation that does significant work in the, 12 companies together, does significant work in the community. Alejandro Vasquez with Mercury Investments has great experience in agri-food, working with government and private sector. Rodrigo Torres Conde is an expert in bilateral business experience between Mexico and the United States. And then Todd Hardy with Tuscan Coast Enterprises has 30 years of corporate counsel experience working with Fortune 500 and NASDAQ companies. I've had the pleasure of working with Todd for about a decade now and find his experience in working with startups and early stage companies very exciting. They also have a very experienced external team. Enamel Hoke with Hoke & Associates has extensive landfill engineering experience. In fact, he was one of the engineers on the Tempe landfill that is now Tempe Marketplace at the corner of the 101 and 202. Kitchell Development, of course, we all know, and Kimley Horn. Spencer Fain is their legal counsel, and then our partners in Arizona State University and ASU. But I would be truly remiss if I didn't recognize one of my internal staff members who's really taken the lead on this project since it came in as a prospect looking for new sites, and that's Juan Batres, who is our program manager over our food innovation and logistics projects here in the city of Phoenix, and his deputy director, Nate Wright. The two of them have done extensive work in ensuring that this project move forward, and under their guidance, we've seen it really morph from a distribution project into the really exciting project that you see in front of you today. We have conducted community outreach, and while, as you know, Council, our RFPs, usually we do community meetings, but usually just those directly related around the site. This site has been extensive focus of the community for many, many decades. So under the guidance of our Planning and Development Department, even though the site is already zoned, we treated it more like a zoning process. We notified all property owners and residents within 1,200 feet from the site, and neighborhood associations within a mile from the site. And in fact, we ended up notifying more than 45 neighborhood associations of the public meetings that we were going to host. So a community engagement went much farther than the boundaries that would traditionally be targeted. We also built a city webpage. We drove all of our community outreach to the city webpage if they just wanted to make a comment that they'd forgotten during a community meeting, or they wanted to watch the presentation or video again, or learn more about the project. They could find that information out at their own leisure. We did conduct a number of community meetings. The first and the most important to me was with the Del Rio Community Re-Envision Working Group that created that community master plan for the Rio for the Rio landfill in 2012. We did several open community meetings, and we did one meeting just in Spanish. So if people were more comfortable hearing the entire presentation in Spanish, they could participate in that format. We also appeared before the South Mountain Village Planning Committee, and one of the commissioners, Dr. Brooks, who has extensive experience working with the South Mountain Community College on food innovation, applauded the project. We also met with the South Central TOD Development Committee and took their input. Even though we're 7 streets off of the South Central area, we thought it was important to involve them. And then our last meeting was receiving the approval of the Parks and Recreation Board to do the land swap from the existing 20-acre park to the park site on the corner of Elwood and the eastern site of the property. Our proposed business terms are pretty extensive, so of course the developer needs to construct the project as they've presented in the proposal. In the first phase, it is the Agri-Food Innovation Center, a wholesale produce distribution center, and there will be retail, education, research facilities in future phases. And then of course fund and construct the 20-acre city park under the leadership of our Parks Department. They will pay an annual rent of $1, and before the council's concerned that we're not getting fair market value for the land, we do have a broker's estimate of value for the land, and they will be held to the park development of a minimum of that fair market value of that property. The Parks and Recreation Department will operate and maintain the park as a public park, but as an ongoing operation and maintenance fund, the developer will provide some financial assistance to help fund and maintain the park through the term of the lease. And we are proposing a 100-year lease at this particular location. It is an abnormally long term for staff to be recommending, but this is a challenging site to redevelop. And as you're looking at the financial model and the phases to redevelop this project, this is an extensive undertaking for anybody on this project. And as you can see, we're already 25 years since we received our first RFP on the site, and we think this is a good opportunity. The ground lease does provide for an extension term, but as I shared with Councilwoman Stark at her subcommittee, Madam Chair, I promise you I will not be here to bring the extension forward to your subcommittee 100 years from now. They do need to comply with all city-approved plans, and they will need to enter into agreements within 12 months should this subcommittee choose to move forward and City Council approve the authorization of the terms. They do need to commence construction within 24 months and complete construction within 42. And again, that's a longer term than you typically see from us, but again, this is a landfill and great complexities that need to take place on this site. The city will continue to maintain the landfill, all of the methane gas systems, and the water. I think it's again important to note there's very limited methane gas coming off of this site, and if council has questions on this, Joe Giudice is here to answer those questions. And in phase 2, the city will provide access to the park from 7th Street for them, the developer, to build a public street moving into the project. So we have City Council requested actions. We did appear before the Land Use and Livability Subcommittee, and they did make recommendation to move forward to the City Council for approval. We are here before Councilwoman Pastor's Workforce and Economic Development Subcommittee for information and discussion, and to take this subcommittee's input to bring forward to the formal council meeting on October 7th, and should council choose to move this forward at their meeting, we would be very excited to take this project into further development. So with that, Chairwoman, we would be happy to answer any questions that you and your subcommittee have for us.
Does anybody have any questions?
Chairwoman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Not in the way of a question, but just to say this is really an exciting project. We also saw the presentation at my subcommittee, and quite frankly, I'll say it again, I'm really jealous. I wish it was in my district. I can't wait to see this project come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Chris, I have I think this is actually an exciting opportunity, and to see it grow into that space in phases is wonderful. My question is access, more roads, water, and all the pieces that go together in developing a property. Is that on the city, or is that with the developer?
Madam Chair, the developer will be required to do the improvements to bring those utilities and infrastructure to the site, and that would be on their side, not on the city side.
Okay, understood. I think it's exciting. I have, if nobody else has any other questions, I have a speaker. So I'm gonna let him speak on this project. Todd Hardy.
All right, thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the subcommittee. First, I'd like to thank Chris and her team for the fantastic support for moving this offer to develop the Del Rio site forward. We're extremely excited with the opportunity to turn this property into a national leading center for innovation in the agri-food sector, creating jobs and providing much needed educational and recreational amenities for the community. We share the excitement that Chris has for this project, and we really can't wait to get started as soon as possible, and hope that you agree that the project will bring substantial benefit to the city.
Thank you. I don't know what to say because I'm thinking, processing many things. But this was a dream of my father's, and I didn't realize it till just the last 2 years, that in talking with my mom, that this was his vision. It started in college, and it started with a class that he had been taking, and did a research paper on it. And to think about that vision started in college, and how his career came about and was able to influence the Rio Salado and get it to where it's built, where it is today, is just amazing, and how he stuck with his vision. But the fact that it's going to be an agriculture, and having an ability to integrate that in the community, especially in our South Mountain community, where that's important, and where South Mountain was the ag area, no longer parts of it, but no longer, that was the ag area of the city. It's just exciting to see, and I'm grateful that we were able to partner up with a great collaboration and partners to continue the vision. So I'm very excited. Anybody else have any questions? I don't know where Councilman Nowakowski. All right, well, appreciate the information. We'll be seeing this at council, and we'll be moving this forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think those are all the items, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
And then is there a call to a public?
We do not have any members of the public wishing to speak.
Are there any items? No future items? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.